Small backyard and courtyard transformation, tiny garden ideas to maximize space. Transforming a small backyard or a modest courtyard into a space that is both beautiful and functional is not merely a matter of rearranging a few objects. It is a process of discovery, of understanding the inherent potential of the space and of translating that potential into something tangible, something that feels alive. When I approach such a project, I do not see the limitations of size as an obstacle. Instead, I see them as an invitation to design with greater care, to think more deeply about every element, and to allow creativity to thrive within constraints. A compact outdoor space can, when designed thoughtfully, feel far larger than it truly is. The first step in such a transformation is to pause and truly see what is there. I stand in the space, feeling the way light falls across it at different times of the day, noticing how shadows stretch and retract. I observe whether the area is kissed by sunlight from morning to evening, or if it spends much of the day in the cool embrace of shade. The ground speaks too, whether it is level and open to arrangement, or whether it has subtle inclines and declines that could be shaped into features. Each of these observations is a note in the symphony of design guiding the choices that will follow. From there, a vision begins to take form. Every great design project starts with intention. Without a vision, the process can easily become a collection of disconnected ideas, each appealing on its own, but lacking harmony when combined. I ask myself and the people who will inhabit the space what they imagine here. Do they dream of a quiet reading corner where a single comfortable chair and a small table become a sanctuary for reflection? Do they picture a green oasis dense with plants that brings the energy of nature into an urban setting? Or do they see a lively space for gathering friends and family where the design encourages conversation, laughter, and shared meals? This clarity of purpose is the compass that keeps the entire process aligned. In small backyards and courtyards, every inch matters. There is no room for wasted space, and every decision must serve multiple purposes if possible. This is why I often divide such spaces into distinct zones. Even if the total area is modest, creating defined areas gives the mind a sense of variety and depth. A lounging zone might hold a small bench or compact outdoor sofa. A dining zone could feature a narrow bistro table with 2 or 3 chairs. A vertical garden wall, lush with herbs or flowers, could act as both a green backdrop and a living boundary between functions. Each zone has its role, but together they weave a continuous experience. Furniture in these environments must work harder than usual. Multifunctional pieces are invaluable. A bench that opens to reveal storage inside. A table that folds down when not in use. Chairs that can stack or be tucked away easily. These are not just conveniences, they are the tools that allow the space to remain open and uncluttered while still accommodating different needs. By being intentional with furniture, we can keep the design flexible without losing the sense of calm and order that small spaces require. Plants are the heart of any garden, large or small, but in a confined courtyard or backyard, plant selection must be especially thoughtful. I seek out species that have a strong visual presence without overwhelming the space. Tall, slender plants like bamboo or ornamental grasses can add height and privacy, while low-growing ground covers create softness at the base. Compact flowering shrubs can introduce bursts of seasonal colour without dominating the view. To expand the greenery without sacrificing floor space, I often turn to hanging baskets, wall planters, or tiered plant stands. These lift the plant life into the vertical plane, adding layers and depth to the design. Vertical gardening is not just practical, it is transformative. By drawing the eye upward, it changes the way we perceive the dimensions of the space. A trellis draped with jasmine can become a fragrant living wall. A series of wall-mounted pots can hold herbs like basil, rosemary, and mint, which offer beauty and scent, while also being useful in the kitchen. Even a reclaimed wooden pallet can be repurposed into a striking vertical planter. These elements also work as natural dividers, subtly defining the different zones without creating barriers that feel heavy or closed. Lighting is another element that carries significant weight in a small outdoor design. During the day, the interplay of sun and shadow defines much of the atmosphere. At night, it is the lighting we install that takes over that role. Soft, warm light has the power to make a space feel intimate and welcoming. String lights hung across the courtyard, lanterns placed on low tables, and small LED path lights along walkways can create a sense of magic after dark. For practical needs, I might include solar-powered lights to illuminate steps or spotlights to highlight a focal point like a water feature or a beautifully shaped tree. By layering different types of light, I can give the space depth and create moods that shift with the activities taking place. Even in the smallest garden, the presence of water can change the entire character of the space. The sound of water is calming, a natural soundtrack that quiets the mind. A tabletop fountain can bring this effect without consuming much space. A wall-mounted cascade can turn an otherwise plain wall into a dynamic living feature. Alongside water, art has its place. Ceramic pots in varying sizes, mosaic stepping stones that lead through the garden, or minimalist sculptures that add a point of focus, all of these enrich the visual and emotional texture of the design. The key is proportion. In a small space, each decorative element must feel intentional and appropriately scaled. Color plays a subtle but essential role in how we perceive the size of a space. A cohesive color palette can visually enlarge a small backyard or courtyard. Light, neutral tones, soft beige, pale grey, off-white reflect sunlight and create an open, airy feeling. These can be accented with vibrant colours introduced through cushions, planters, or seasonal blooms, adding liveliness without overwhelming the senses. Material choices contribute just as much to the atmosphere. Natural wood brings warmth and authenticity, stone adds permanence and grounding, and woven textures introduce a softness that invites touch. Ultimately, the space should be a reflection of the life lived within it. I might include a hammock for quiet afternoons, a cafe table where the first coffee of the day can be savoured, or a cushioned bench under a pergola where one can lose themselves in a book. Sensory details complete the experience. Fragrant flowers that release their scent on warm evenings, the gentle trickle of water in the background, the texture of a rug underfoot that feels soft against bare skin. These are not just decorative touches, they are the elements that make a space memorable, that anchor it in our emotions. When all of these layers, practical planning, creative arrangement, thoughtful plantings, carefully chosen materials, come together, the result is a transformation far greater than the sum of its parts. Even the tiniest outdoor space can become a sanctuary, a place where one feels connected to nature and to themselves. It is not the size of the garden that matters most. It is the attention, the imagination, and the care poured into it that determine its beauty and its worth. This, above all, is the essence of designing a small backyard or courtyard, to create not just a physical space but an experience, a moment, a feeling that endures. When I move into the second phase of designing a small backyard or courtyard, I begin to think about structure and flow. This is the point where the concept becomes tangible, where ideas leave the realm of sketches and begin to take shape in physical form. I walk the space again, this time imagining myself as a visitor moving through it. Where will my eyes be drawn first? Where will my feet naturally want to travel? These questions help determine the placement of major elements and ensure the space invites movement without feeling cramped. The structure of a small outdoor area must feel effortless, but it is always intentional. Pathways, for example, are not simply practical features. In a tight space, a path can guide the visitor's gaze, create a sense of direction, and subtly divide the garden into separate experiences. A narrow stone walkway can lead to a cozy seating nook. A winding gravel path can make the space feel more expansive by encouraging a slower pace and revealing new perspectives at every turn. Materials for these paths, be it natural stone, brick, or timber, must harmonize with the rest of the design, tying the various parts of the garden together. Alongside pathways, I consider the vertical framework of the garden. In small courtyards, the walls and boundaries are not just borders, they are opportunities. A blank fence can be transformed into a living tapestry of climbing plants. A tall, slim trellis can host flowering vines, adding both beauty and privacy. Even a plain wall can be softened with the texture of wooden slats or patterned lattice work, creating a backdrop that frames the rest of the space. This use of vertical elements is essential for expanding the perceived dimensions of the garden and maximizing the available planting area. Once the structural bones are in place, I turn to the central gathering points, the heart of the design. In some spaces, this may be a single focal area, like a circular patio with a small fire pit at its center. In others, it might be a series of smaller destinations, each offering a unique mood. Perhaps a shaded bench beneath a pergola, where dappled light filters through climbing plants. Perhaps a slender dining table positioned to catch the last light of sunset. These destinations should feel natural, as if they belong exactly where they are, yet they should also be placed with careful thought to sight lines, accessibility, and comfort. In compact gardens, seating arrangements require as much creativity as planting schemes. Fixed benches along the edges of the space can free up the center for movement, while built-in seating under a raised planter can serve two functions at once. Chairs can be chosen for their ability to be stacked or folded away when not needed, ensuring the space can adapt to different uses. Comfort is paramount, but so is scale. Oversized furniture will crowd the space, while undersized pieces may feel out of place. Finding the balance is an exercise in both proportion and practicality. The interplay of shade and shelter is another layer of consideration. In a small courtyard, even a single overhead element can dramatically influence the feel of the space. A pergola can frame the seating area while supporting climbing plants. A simple fabric shade sail can cast soft, diffuse light over a dining table, making it pleasant to sit outdoors even in strong sun. In cooler climates, retractable awnings or transparent polycarbonate covers can extend the usability of the space into wetter months. These structures must be visually light enough not to dominate the garden, yet strong enough to serve their purpose effectively. Water management, though less visible, is equally important. Small gardens can be vulnerable to pooling water if drainage is not properly addressed. I look for ways to integrate subtle grading, permeable paving, or discrete channels that guide rainwater away from seating areas and toward planted zones where it can nourish the soil. In some designs, collected rainwater can even be stored for use in irrigation, making the garden more sustainable. As the spatial plan develops, I think more deeply about plant placement. In this stage, it's not just about choosing beautiful plants, but about orchestrating how they interact over time. Taller plants can be positioned at the edges to create a sense of enclosure without casting too much shade. Medium-height shrubs and perennials can form the middle layer, offering texture and seasonal interest. Ground covers or low-growing plants can soften edges and fill gaps. The layering of these heights, combined with variations in leaf shape and colour, gives even the smallest garden a rich multi-dimensional feel. Seasonal dynamics are also considered. I plan for moments of beauty throughout the year. Spring blossoms that herald the warmer months, summer foliage that feels lush and full, autumn colours that bring warmth, and evergreens that keep the garden alive in winter. This ensures that the space is not only enjoyable in one season, but offers something to appreciate year-round. Lighting design becomes more refined in this phase as well. I decide on the placement of fixtures, taking into account the interplay between natural and artificial light. A small spotlight aimed upward can highlight the texture of a tree trunk or the form of a sculpture. Low-level lights along a pathway can guide the way without overwhelming the darkness. Soft, indirect lighting near seating areas can make the garden feel like an outdoor living room. Every light should have a purpose, whether it's to ensure safety, create atmosphere, or draw attention to a feature worth admiring. The final consideration in this phase is integration. In a small space, every element must feel as though it belongs. The materials chosen for pathways should speak to those used in planters or furniture. The colour palette of cushions should echo the tones found in flowers or foliage. The shape of a pergola should complement the lines of the house. This harmony creates a sense of completeness, where nothing feels accidental and every detail contributes to the whole. When structure, flow, and function come together, the small backyard or courtyard begins to feel like a living extension of the home. It is no longer just an outdoor area, it becomes a place with purpose, a place where every step leads to a thought-out experience. The space feels larger not because it has grown in size, but because it has been given layers, destinations, and rhythms that invite exploration and linger in memory. In the next phase, the garden will move toward its most expressive layer, its textures, its colors, its living details. But even now, with the bones in place, its character is already beginning to emerge.